Welcome back. Today I am sitting down with Grant Heithold. Grant, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Great.
Uh, Tell the people before we begin who you are, what you're running on, and why.
Okay. Well, I'm running for the Missouri's 8th Congressional District. I've never been involved in politics before. I've always followed national news. And to tell me a little bit more about myself and my family, possibly just make me more of a real person. I graduated from a fairly local school here, Licking, Missouri,
Hmm.
high school. I stayed out approximately a year trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Help my dad farm because I was raised on a farm. And then I decided to continue my education and went to school up there at that time was called University of Missouri Rolla School of Mines.
Yeah.
It was an engineering school, and so I got my engineering degree, BS in petroleum engineering. And from there, I started. The petroleum industry was down at that time I graduated, so I was looking for work. I got a call from a local school looking for a math and science teacher, and I interviewed on a Sunday, started work that Monday, and taught school for a while. After that, I continued to further my uh, what education I did have, and started working at as an engineer at nuclear power plants in different various places. And uh, I worked there, different places for several years. I at that time, late in that career portion of my life, I got married, started to have a family, and the business I was in was consulting work, and I was doing a lot of traveling. And I bought farm ground out and came back to Missouri and started farming, and also invested in a small business, which was a hardware store that turned out to be a lumber yard. And now I'm selling outside wood furnace. I represent a company in 7 different states, uh, setting up dealers for an outside wood furnace
Oh,
company,
cool.
which is called Heatmore.
Okay,
So
cool.
that kind of gives you a background. I've been married for 35 years. I have 3 kids and 10 grandkids.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Big family.
Yeah,
um, so, like you said, you're not a politician. You kind of just got into
right.
this. What led you to run?
Well, I've always been involved in looking at national news on the national level. It always interested me, and really, what really broke everything for me was I couldn't believe we lost the 2020 election. I thought it was legit at first. And I was watching Fox News, and from there, it didn't take me long to realize not to stop watching Fox News and start finding other media to look at, because I believe the election was stolen,
Yeah.
and this was done 2 days or after the election was stolen. I determined that in my head. And if you really think about it, I mean, if the election is stolen, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Because what elections do, they have consequences, and stolen elections have catastrophic consequences, and that's what we're suffering from now. So in this sense, I was thinking that if that election was stolen, that's only 1/8 of the iceberg.
Mm.
The other 7/8 of the iceberg's underwater, and it's a swamp. And I started to realize how deep this was, especially with strong evidence of fraud, of people voting that were dead, machines that were tabulating or counting 300,000 votes at one time and taking them off.
Ballots coming
Yeah,
in middle of the night
yes,
that has one box checked.
exactly, and trucks, drivers coming up, whistleblowers saying that they've transported who knows how much ballots in the back of their truck.
Yeah.
That type of stuff was going on. And the argument from the other side is, well, that we looked at the evidence, and there's no evidence, strong proof that, or evidence that the election was stolen. But I've been also told that none of these 60 cases that came to the court had been based on merit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really gets you thinking also, because you got the judges involved.
Yeah, and they're politicians.
Yep.
That's the dirty little secret about just like our judicial system. Yeah, they're for the law, and there's a bunch of good judges out there.
Yeah,
But
right.
at the end of the day, they are elected officials, and they're gonna go with the votes. They're going to try to get their votes, and it's scary because as judges, they hold people's lives in their hand.
Right.
And I don't know what the answer to that is, but there does have to be a better way than electing judges, or have an oversight on them at least to hold their feet to the fire.
Right, exactly. I'm not sure what the terms of these judges are, but they definitely be looked at closer than they have been.
I agree.
And one of the things, that's one of the problems with politics, is that you have people, let's say I do get elected,
Mm-hmm.
and get up there. I talked to a guy that in the past here, the last few weeks, that was in charge of Ron Paul's campaign, the national campaign back in the day. And he said if the first people is going to approach you is people that want you to vote their way, and
Mm-hmm.
not the way of the 8th congressional district. And I said, well, I told him on the phone, I said, I really didn't want this job anyway.
Yep.
I don't want it. I have other things I could be doing, but I realize that the predicament we're in, and someone needs to run. And so I told him, I said, I don't care. I said, I'll talk to him. And I'll tell him. I said, I didn't want this job anyway, and you're not going to be by my vote. I'm going to represent. I'm a Christian person. I'm going to stand on Christian values, and I'll represent the people, no matter what the cost is. He says, you'll probably lose the primary the next time because they'll primary out. And I said, well, so be it. But my message to my constituents is to vote the way I feel like they're going to be represented truly.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe if they do that, and it communicates the right way, if I want this job again the next term, then it's going to happen. So,
and well, isn't that the dirty little secret on all this? Is money, is lobbyists. They come in and they will throw money at you, and they will make you vote against your district's interests.
Yep.
And it's happened for so long under the scenes. The only reason it's been exposed to this point is because of social media and the age of information, where you can look up anything on the internet nowadays. Mm-hmm. It's harder to hide things than it was back in the 90s. Yep. And I think we're now just becoming awake to what the political system has truly been up to.
I agree.
As you running for U.S. Congress, what are some of your stances that you stand on that you are going to bring to the district?
Yeah. Well, basically, my opponent runs on fiscal responsibility, and he and that's what really got me in the race, was this what they call consolidation appropriations bill, and this was back in late March. And he voted for continued spending. I don't know if people realize this, but according to the Congressional Budget Office, we had a 40% increase in spending in less than 5 years. And and some people blame it on COVID. Yeah, that we had some extra spending there, but COVID's basically over with. Yes. And yet he's still voting on this in late March to continue the spending. There was maybe just a fraction of very little less spending in that bill, but it's basically continuing at 40%.
And most of this is coming from federal, right? You said 40%.
Yeah. This is federal stuff. So and federal stuff tails off to the stuff that's state and local. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I heard that the federal money coming to the state, which is too much, is close to 50% in Missouri.
Yeah, and with every federal dollar comes a federal string attached.
Exactly, and so that's what's going on. So this bill that I'm talking about, and again, that's kind of the centerpiece of my campaign. This bill that he voted on, because it actually got me to file, is what Marjorie Taylor Greene said was the most dirtiest bill she's ever voted on. And this takes her through Nancy Pelosi days when she's voting on those bills. Chip Roy said, if you vote on this bill, you're going to be owning some stuff. You're going to be owning abortion tourism. I heard late-term abortions in this bill.
My God.
Transgender surgeries for military, funding WHO. I don't know if people know what WHO is, but it's the World Health Organization, and it's right. And there's consideration with this present administration that they're trying to push a treaty with them and allow them to have authority over the next pandemic, and that means we're losing our sovereignty.
Yes.
So this is a lot of things going on in this thing. Like I said, it continues the spending. I think the Senate on the federal level had a resolution earlier this year saying that our national debt is a matter of national security. That's how bad it is. And so he keeps spending these things. We're at, and people may have noticed this, Devin, but and have heard this before. But and Jason says this behind the podium. He'll say that we're at $35 trillion worth of debt and have $1 trillion added to that every 100 days. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he keeps doing the same stuff. He talks one thing behind the podium and says another. So this is a matter of national security. Experts don't know when this train wreck's going to happen, but it's going to happen if we keep on. Yeah, and it's scary, and that's why I got involved, because I don't know how long this race is going to last the way it is.
Yeah,
So I thought I needed to do something.
Well, it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to.
I thought I needed to do something to try to sway it some way, one way or another. And so like I said, I don't have a lot of experience in politics at all, but I have some common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, don't vote for spending bills that continue the out of control spending, and also for the dirty stuff that's in this bill.
Yeah,
make a stand.
Well, I think a lot of it comes from bought and paid for. Accepting those lobbyist dollars, accepting that money from the special interest groups coming in.
Exactly.
You can't tell them no at that point. They own you.
Yeah.
With every investment made, there's a return on an investment, and that return investment comes in a vote.
Yep.
And that's what we've seen over and over and over again.
Yep.
And you got people like Jason who stands up there, and he's a strong conservative, right?
Right.
Until you look at his voting record, and he backstabs the people that he is there to protect.
Yeah.
And I think people are getting tired of it, and I think people are finally seeing it.
Jason's a nice guy.
Yes, absolutely.
But we need to have a fighter, somebody that'll stand up. And I don't know, just like you said, there's strings attached to these big donors. You look at FEC, it's an open book to see the donations. He's got millions and millions of dollars from big donors.
Yes.
And big donors have strings attached to that. And that's very scary. And that's how that system works. I think it works not only for politics, but also for any legislation that's up in DC or anywhere else. Those strings are attached for, healthcare, anything, anything that we are subject to from this government, and subject to in direct ways that way, because legislation is being passed to help big pharma and these other things that allow prescription drugs to go up. We need to have a total overhaul of our system.
Yes.
We need to have full investigations on these big pharma and all these other stuff that's causing us to pay more for the same product.
Well, I agree with you. COVID, that's a prime example of federal overreach. When has there been a bigger overstep in federal history to where the government has mandated people stay home from work? People, you had to choose between feeding yourself or going without electric. People felt the hurt from COVID, and I think that was the beginning of the eyes opening.
I really believe it too. They were saying that you can go to the strip joint but not go to church.
Exactly.
I mean, this is stupid stuff that is in your face. So we've seen it build up, I think, in the last couple of decades, just from what I've learned. This stuff like World Health Organization, that stuff being around for a while, and this is a plan for the decades. Mm-hmm. I think they planned on Hillary being in office and this being over with, but Trump threw a wrench in that plan. And hopefully he gets elected again without them cheating too much this time.
Well, they've already done it. Kamala, she didn't have a single primary vote, but yet she is going to be the Democratic nominee. Wow. And the fact that they did the debate so far in advance showed you their plan. They knew he was going to bomb this debate.
Right.
And then
give him an excuse.
Yes. And then now we're stuck with Kamala.
Right.
It's not even going to go to an open convention, I don't believe.
Yeah.
To where at least the delegates get to vote on it. They're already sworn to Kamala.
Really?
Yep.
See, I haven't been following it much because I've been on the road a lot, but I always thought Michelle Obama was going to get in. I'm not sure.
I thought that too.
So it doesn't look like she's going to do that.
No, she's, from everything I've seen, she's made it very clear that she doesn't want to do it right now.
Okay.
But I mean, I think as of right now, I think Kamala has 1,498 delegates pledged to her. She's only like 100 or 2 off from getting the nomination.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is just cheating in a different form.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
We've never seen this, and the last time we've had an open convention on a Democratic Party was in the 60s. Really? And here we are, and they're not. They're giving it to their coup.
Yeah,
this is what it is.
Exactly.
It was a coup. What is your stances on abortion, on immigration, on these big issues that Missourians face?
Yeah, that's another thing that I think Jason could have done with these omnibus bills. We President Reagan shut the government down at like 8 times, and it worked. And we had ability to do that, and he didn't side for that. These big spending bills should have been shut down and said, "Hey, to have some serious talks, we need to shut the government down. Then we'll let the cream rise to the top and start talking about the real issues." Mm-hmm. Border security is a big one. The more I've gotten involved in this, the more I realize, and the Bible talks about there's good and evil. We need to get off the fence, and either be on the good side or the evil side. And my wife tends not like talking about the evil part of it, but it is pure evil. This to me, an open border is allowing things to happen that we don't want. And one of them is child trafficking.
Yes.
And the New York Times, I think in February last year, so it's been way over a year, have reported that 85,000 of these kids are missing. And I'm understanding the industry more. They're using them multiple times and they're throwing them away. And so we don't know how many are alive. We don't know where they're at. And we're not vetting the people coming across. Again, these kids are maybe attached to families, but the Biden administration has stopped DNA testing, so we can't, and it's a very simple test. They stopped that for a bad reason. So fentanyl's coming across the border. All these things that are basically killing our citizens and treating these kids the way they're worse than animals is bad. So close this border. We can, like I said, make the move, shut the government down, and start negotiating and start having some real talk. And that was us a couple of times there that Jason missed that opportunity.
The opportunity is to be strong. He didn't.
Yeah,
take.
Right. He didn't stand and with the Freedom Caucus guys, the America First people, and do this thing.
Yeah.
And I know people would be coming at you, but what you got to do is stand for the truth and stand.
Yep.
And just wait for the storm to go over and start working with real decisions.
Well, I'm glad you brought up human trafficking or child trafficking in particular. I had Chris Wright on about a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about human trafficking. He said Missouri's number 4 in the country.
Wow.
So that is a huge issue for Missouri.
Yeah.
You know that, and I had never heard that before, and I looked it up, and it's true. We are number 4 because, like he said, we're in the perfect spot. We're right in the middle. You can get to anywhere.
Yeah.
From Missouri, it's about a 13-hour drive every which way you want to go.
Right.
Wow. But at least someone's talking about this issue, because it's one I've heard very little of on the campaign trail all around.
Yeah. It is pure evil. There can't any much more evil than that, than treating these innocent kids the way they are.
It's a spiritual war.
It is. Yeah.
People think you're kooky when you say that, but I think, like you said, good and evil, but a spiritual war is being waged here in America.
And that's what I also come to the conclusion of, this following this stuff. It is a spiritual war. You look at the Olympics, for example, when they mocked Jesus Christ in his Last Supper before the day he died. Yeah. And it's a mockery. And this is what we're suffering from here, as a lack of people seeing this, that this stuff that's playing in the physical is actually coming through as a spiritual thing that's going on. And I think hopefully this stuff that's in your face, this stuff that's thrown at us from our present administration, people start waking up, say, hey, is there a God? Is he real? Is he good? Start looking into this stuff, be involved. There's a place in Mountain View that's helping drug addicts. I think it's Care Center. Care Center Ministries. Great stuff.
Doing awesome stuff.
Yeah, great stuff. People get educated. We are losing our country through not only fentanyl, but all the other stuff that's there. That's drug related.
Well, if you, not to get too conspiratorial, but if you think about it, this drug pandemic, okay, you get people on fentanyl, then most of the time they're not going to be working. They're not going to be providing. So then they're going to rely on government money. And then by relying on government money, you sacrifice freedom because they'll tell you what to do to get this government money.
Exactly.
I mean,
and that's kind of the platform, the World Economic Forum.
Exactly.
And I think the Democratic Party is right with them.
You will own nothing and you will be happy for it.
Exactly. Yep. You have your little bitty Xbox or something you're looking at, and they'll feed you, but they'll get your vote.
And then, we're getting to the age of self-driving vehicles. God forbid you miss a payment on your vehicle. It locks the doors and it drives itself back to the, you know what I mean? I mean, that's where we're getting in society with this technological advance. And Republicans are on the downhill slope of this, fighting upwards because the tech company is owned by the liberals, is owned by the Democrats. They control the flow of information right now. The Democrat, and I've talked about this with several other candidates, that if Republicans don't get energized, we will never own an election again. Because they have the energy, they have the momentum on their side. They have the young people. They are so ideologically captured by what's going on. They don't care about killing a baby in the 9th month. They don't, to them, it's a right to choose over a right to life. And that's not what it is. Where do you stand on abortion?
Now, abortion, like I said, I'm a Christian. I believe that the Bible teaches that life begins at conception.
Yes.
And so that's where I stand. I'm going to stand for life. I realize there's confusion out there in the media that we're talking about that promotes this stuff that's not part of your body, but it's not part of your body, but I'm sorry, it is part of your body. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's not. It is and it's an individual.
Yeah, well, it's a symbiotic relationship that God, nature has given us.
Right.
Women, it's biology. Another human being is growing inside you, and I don't feel like you have the right to kill that.
Right.
Just because of irresponsibility.
Right.
You know.
And I realize people are confused. Some of these girls are confused because of the media that they're listening to. And what we want to do is, I think, we want to support them in that pregnancy, try to get them to stay with life and allow that kid to have a normal life. We also need to have possibly programs, preferably outside the government, but just like we're talking about these volunteer organizations that's helping drug addicts, those people that are finding good homes for these kids being adopted or foster home. That is another big thing, in my opinion. The foster care that we have is not the most perfect either. No. And so we have to look into that more and find better ways of treating these kids like humans.
And do you think that comes with maybe more funding towards those programs?
Yeah, or possibly.
Eliminate wasteful spending?
I know. Again, I think people ask me where are you going to get this money to do stuff or whatever. We're spending so much money that's mismanaged, that's corrupt. For instance, I don't believe in us supporting the Ukraine.
No, me neither.
One of the most corrupt countries in the world, and we're sending money and we're not even tracking that money.
Well, Hunter was involved with Ukraine. That's
yeah. So that the Biden family is in part of that as well. But we had the ability to track that money, and then the House, they don't even think it got out of conference. So that'd be red flag to me. Say, hey, why are we sending money and not tracking it to one of the most corrupt countries in the world?
Exactly. They oversent $5 billion.
I didn't know where it went.
5-6 months ago, or something like that. But they oversent $5 billion to Ukraine that they accidentally sent. If you looked at the fires of Maui, to make every person whole that had just went through that fire, it was about $5 billion.
Really?
Why do we not take care of our own here in America?
Right. Exactly.
It's like our government prioritizes these other countries over its own people. Yeah. And I think people are getting tired of that.
Right.
And I think we need strong conservative people in there that are going to stand up for the little guy.
Right.
Who knows what it's like to be on that side. Because I always say this is there's two different worlds we live in. There's the world of the governed and the world of the governors. The governors don't know what it's like to live in our world because they're so out of touch with what these legislations do to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just a big thing to me, is that getting the right people in there that have the mindset of the regular people.
Yeah, and it's not rocket science.
It's not.
It does not rocket science to say no to a bill that's overspending stuff and supporting a bunch of dirty stuff in it.
Yeah.
You say for instance, the representation we have has a placard that says 100% pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that because the bill's showing that it's we're paying for abortions.
Well, even Missouri, for it to be such a ruby red conservative state, they passed the SAFE Act. The Save Adolescents from Experimentation, but it gets to the Senate and it gets watered down with a 4-year sunset clause that in 4 years they're going to have to go revisit and see if they even want to have that bill.
Wow.
And we're in a conservative state.
Yeah.
And it comes from these lobbyists owning these politicians and saying, wait a minute, you can do this, but in 4 years, let's go back and revisit and see if we want to keep this.
Wow. That's just more of a reason for us to get involved.
Exactly.
Hopefully people are seeing what we're seeing, because it's up in your face now. You can't really avoid it. And hopefully people get involved. I didn't realize this. And like I said, I'm not a politician. I wasn't involved in the Republican Party that much, but they have what they call precinct committee men and committee women. And a lot of people don't know this, but the RNC, the Republican National Committee, does not advertise this position. It's a foundational block to the Republican Party.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
There's basically, it's been several months ago that I heard this, but and hopefully being updated as people start getting these positions. But over half of those positions are available. They're open, and they're not being advertised by RNC because they don't want people involved to tell them what to do.
Really?
So we have that whole position available. There's almost like 400,000 positions, and 200,000 are empty.
Wow.
So if we can get this is on the ground level. So it's whether you're go by a precinct in your county or a township or whatever it is, you can be that committee man or committee woman and start setting foundational blocks to get proper people elected and vetted. And it is. I don't understand the whole works, but I understand that if you have enough of these people, it'll turn the RNC to a conservative movement, a party again.
It'll get the grassroots in there, you know,
and it's so scary. And again, I didn't understand this real well, but in South Dakota, that's a red state, and it's the legislators, the red legislators, got together when they started seeing the movement of this committeemen and committeewomen being filled and what the authority they have. They started to have they want to have a special meeting. And once we found out about it, the special meeting was shut down.
Of course,
because they wanted to take authority away from through the whatever they were doing, to take authority away from these committeemen and committeewomen through this meeting. Through this meeting, yeah. And this is a red state, so that's what we're dealing with. Just like Eli Crane was saying, he's a constituent, or I'm sorry, a colleague of Jason's. He's out of Arizona. And before this bill was passed, this bill, this HB 28882 that Jason voted yes on with the majority of the Democrats, before this was passed, he says, why do you guys keep sending these Republicans back up to office? We got to fight these guys just as much as the Democrats, are even worse.
Yeah.
Because most of these guys are saying something behind the podium and not doing it. And he said, you guys got to send some different people up and some new blood so we can work with them.
Yeah.
Because we're losing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that if someone gets like me from a grassroots level or whatever gets there, I'm going to be rubbing shoulders with these guys, America First and people and get to know the mechanics of how this works. And I understand I may not agree with all the stuff that they're doing, but I can make my own discernments as a Christian.
Well, exactly. There's a time for agreement and disagreement, but you guys can always come together for the fight at hand.
Right. So there needs to be that coalition of conservatives to fight this, and that's what Eli Crane was asking for. We need more conservatives up here so we can fight it even harder and take this over. So,
what was the? Let me think how to word this. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Whenever you're like, "Hey, I am going to run."
Well, it was a Thursday, March 22nd, when this bill was passed, I believe. And I really hoped that Jason Smith wouldn't have passed this House bill, this second swamp bill, that they called it. But he did. He helped pass it, and he voted yes. So the Thursday, that 22nd, we had a Lincoln Day, and the next day in Texas County, and started discussing with some of these people. And I was so frustrated that he voted yes with it, because if he'd have voted no, I wouldn't be here. But he voted yes, and I started talking to a few people. Brad Hudson was one of them. That's running for
very
state.
Strong conservative.
Yeah, but I was getting a little bit of feedback from people. But I decided that we were losing our country in front of our eyes, and no one was opposing him. I was hoping maybe someone I could stand up with to oppose him was going to run against him, but that wasn't happening either. So keep in mind, that was Thursday. I was discussing it Friday. I discussed it with my wife that weekend, and Tuesday was the last day to file. And at noon that morning, the last day, I finally made my decision. I talked to Bob Parker. He was running against Emerson back in the day for the same seat. And he told me, he said, if you don't do it, you may regret the rest of your life. You don't try it.
Yeah.
So I went with it and drove to Jeff City that afternoon and filed that Tuesday.
That's a good story.
So that was a yeah.
I like that. I mean, the fact, cause and effect. The cause was he voted for this bill. The effect is he's got you running against him.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I've been listening to alternative media that was actually giving me the truth. And I was seeing how scary it was and seeing how deep this thing was.
Isn't it sad you can't trust the regular news sources? I say regular, but the mainstream news sources.
What I thought was conservative, Fox News, even Newsmax, they if you talked about the vaccine It was quote unquote the vaccine. I call it a bioweapon in a negative way.
Exactly what it is.
They throw you off set.
Yep.
And I was following Newsmax too a little bit. So I kind of gravitated. My story was I know Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. He had a symposium I think in September in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I didn't realize I was busy with my own business, but about a month after that, I watched what they call, I forget what they called it, but it was election integrity of some sort. And they had a bunch of cyber guys on there and that type of stuff. And that's where I really got a good education and got connected with Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, and started following him. He had a platform that he had with all Christian hosts, and I started watching that like crazy because I was trying to wrap my head around all this stuff. In fact, I was going to get the vaccine. For a little bit. I mean, for a little time, I considered it.
Thank God, huh?
I know. And so I just I got educated pretty quick and tried to get my head wrapped around what was going on, and it was a big deal. I was seeing my country fall.
So that's something you would definitely fight against is vaccine mandates.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not a vaccine. It's a vaccine. I think what they consider a true vaccine is something that's either, especially for a virus, it's either a dead virus or a very sick virus.
Not an mRNA.
Yeah. So that your body can adjust and make antibodies against this. Yeah. And we understand from this thing was a experimental drug for very, very high risk cancer patients that had no other alternative. And this RMNA technology was something that was trying out on these guys.
Well, one of the founders of this mRNA vaccine that holds, I think, 10 of the patents for this mRNA vaccine, he even came out and said, this changes your DNA. This is not a vaccine. Yeah. And for them to mandate that to people. And people dropping dead now from blood clots, from whatever it is caused by this vaccine injury that they said did not exist.
Yeah.
But all the time ostracizing people for going with alternative medicine, taking horse dewormer.
Yeah, I know.
A medicine that won a Nobel Peace Prize because it was the most effective medicine for what it was for. It's viral medicine.
Right.
And there was
no
pennies on the dollar you could get it for.
I was listening to a guy named Steve Hatfield. He was in the higher up in the medical field or whatever, and you're using Ebola back in the day. And I think Trump administration or whatever, when this thing started coming out on this virus or whatever you want to call it, he was called up to DC, and he already knew early case studies in South Korea and in France, I think, or somewhere in Europe of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine already working and is having really good results. So he came up with this information because this is all new. And this team that was up there, and I guess Fauci's team or whatever, they basically told him, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to use this. We're going to force this RNA technology on people. And I think they knew what they were doing.
They did. If you listen to Fauci, I've went back there and just listened to some of Fauci's stuff. If you don't trust the science, trust Anthony Fauci. Any person who talks in the third person, that's an evil person. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like a Bond villain. You know, I'm Anthony Fauci, and you need to trust me. No, bud.
Yeah, he was oversight on the Ebola trials back in. Remember that this virus came out of Wuhan or whatever. In the late 2019, it was hitting the U.S. early 2020, and they already had a study with this RMNA, or I'm sorry, no, that wasn't RMNA, but there was an Ebola study that they were trying to do in Africa on people that had Ebola, and they were using what they call remdesivir.
Yeah,
and this was Fauci product that he was using under his watch. And they had to shut that study down because over 50% of the people were dying. And so the safety board shut it down. And Fauci, this was late 2019, I think it was early or mid 2019. And then
Fauci's, so right at the beginning of COVID getting ready to come out.
And then Fauci sets this as a protocol to use this remdesivir, this 5-day protocol in people that are in patient care in hospitals. And then we have, I don't know if you remember or not, but when in 2020 happened, and all these people they shown them body bags in New York and that type of stuff, and these doctors were saying, "Well, I don't understand this. I never seen a virus do this. It's causing organ failure, and these people are dying."
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't the the virus. It was the medicine that Fauci was putting out there.
Exactly.
It was remdesivir.
And, they get away with this. Like you said, it's a bioweapon. Okay. We know this gain of function research has happened because coronavirus, it wasn't spread to humans until it got into that lab. And they altered it and genetically mutated that virus to be able to go to a human.
Gain of function.
And we're starting to see the same things with this H1N5 virus. Have you heard much about that coming out?
No.
It's the bird flu. I've been following this very closely for the past few months. What they were worried about 4 months ago is that it was going to make the jump from birds to cows. And if it made the jump there, then it eventually will make the jump to humans. Well, 2 months ago, it made the jump to the cows.
Really?
Now, 3 people have been dead, humans, from this H1N5 virus. It's the new pandemic. It's coming in the pipeline, and it will be here, I'm guessing, probably by election time.
My gosh.
It scares me.
Now, where is this coming from? Have you heard?
Maine, Maryland, somewhere up.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Wherever all the dairy cows are, that's where it's happening right now. But I got rumblings of this probably 8 months ago when I just seen like little news articles about this H1N5 because it wasn't widespread information on it. And I started following it real close, and I saw that it made the jump to cows. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, we need to keep an eye on this. So
really?
I pinned those words where any information I could find on it, and comes out now. Humans are catching it, and it's only a matter of time. The difference between H1N5 and COVID is COVID had a 0.5% mortality rate.
Mm-hmm.
This has a 60.
My gosh.
If we went crazy over a 0.5%, imagine what the government's going to do to us over something that has over half the people will die.
This is crazy.
It scares me.
Crazy. And this is what the World Economic Forum wants.
Oh, yes.
What is it? 500 million? They want the population from 8 billion to 500 million?
Yep. And on top of that, they anti-human is, I guess, the only word to call that. Yeah. Whenever we should be wanting more people. That's how our species have survived, by populating the world, having kids.
Yeah.
And taking these conservative values out of society. What is the big things that they preach? Have your abortions. Don't have a family. Don't get married. Get divorced. Do what thou will. Right. I mean, that was one of the satanic principles in the Satanic Bible, is do what thou will.
Right.
And here we are today, and we're seeing the effects of this in our society.
Yeah, it is.
And it's sickening.
Yeah.
But there's so many that's ideologically captured by it that won't look at the common sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's scary.
It's crazy.
I
never thought, we talked about when I was earlier in my age, I guess 20 years ago or whatever, I had kids and stuff, but seeing this world and trying to do something for my kids. Well, I'm trying to do something for myself right now. Yeah. Because we're seeing it right now. This is transpiring right now in our face.
In what world will we leave our children if we don't fix it now?
Yeah. Yeah. People have a ability to be apathetic because we're a rich country, and we want to do whatever we want to do and not be bothered. But we have to get to a point now seeing this, that we got to do something. Whether it's getting involved in politics or getting something involved in a church more way, or trying. But I really believe this. You have the Chinese CCP. You have a country that's very powerful. You have like 7 or 8, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 families that really control that. But you have the people there that are most of them are good. Yeah. And I think I've seen, this is probably an older statistics, probably a decade ago, but Christianity, believe it or not, is the fastest growing faith in the world. We think Muslim faith is, but I think it's Christianity, and a lot of it may not be happening in the U.S., but places like China, it's growing like crazy. And I think this is God's plan. We can, if we can convert people to, or bring people to a truth of Jesus Christ and the goodness of Him, and allowing people to see that in a big way, nations will topple because of that from inside out. And
faith of a mustard seed.
Yeah. And there's a movement in China for that to happen. There's a guy named Miles Guo that's was part of the Tiananmen Square type stuff, and he's in jail in New York waiting to be extradited to China. So you pick some of the stuff up in this news media that you wouldn't get unless you're watching alternative news. Yeah. And so I think God's hope is to reach people's hearts and change nations. And we need to do that here, definitely.
And I think it takes energizing the conservative base and educating the young. Yep. Right now they're winning the spiritual war. Yep. from the time they step foot into those public schools until they
Yes.
go to college.
Yeah.
That's shoved down their throat.
Yeah.
DEI, all this stuff. DEI is what caused the Trump assassination attempt. I mean, Biden came out and said 30% of Secret Service will be women by the end of like 2028 or whatever it was. I mean, you either can do the job or you can't.
Right.
It shouldn't matter what you are.
What sex you are or what color you are.
Because isn't at its core, that's the definition of racism and sexism is giving someone something based on what they are or taking something from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's backwards.
It's kind of strange how Martin Luther back in the day was saying, and now they're directly against that.
We're moving towards segregation again. They want, like, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. But it's there to divide.
It is.
Divide and conquer.
Before we wrap up, what is your message to the people? Why should they vote for you? Yeah. What do you want to tell them?
I've been in the real world for 45 years doing work, and so I'm not a politician, but I've got a good standing with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I'm looking for the truth. I will continue looking for the truth because it brings freedom in our lives. And that's what I want to do for the people in the 8th Congressional District, bring freedom back to their lives, because this government overreach is just way out of control. We have representation that's out of touch, and we're out of time. And that's what it says on my little business cards or my palm readers that I give, palm flyers or palm cards that I give to people, is our representation is out of touch and we're out of time. And we have representation that's not only Jason, but a bunch of them out there that need to be replaced, because they feel like they're insulated from the public. They feel they can go to Lincoln days or Reagan days and speak behind a podium one thing and do another and get by with it.
Yeah.
The time is now to change that. You can't keep voting for the same people and expect different results. You got to change something, and that's who I am. I'm going to change this. Like I said, I don't want this job. I've been in high pressure jobs where I was handed a football and it was $1 million a day if we were affecting startup in these nuclear power plants. So I know what pressure is. But to me, it's very simple. We represent the people, not the people that are up there. We're negotiating with serpents. We don't trust the intelligence agencies. A lot of these things that we know have proven they're weaponizing the government against us. We start from scratch and start building a coalition with these conservatives that are already up there and make a difference.
Amen. Yep. You brought up a good point about insulated from the voters, and I think that hits the nail on the head.
It is.
Grant, thank you.
Yep.
I wish you the best during election day. I hope you win. Folks, every year we gripe, we bitch, we moan about not getting the right people in office. This year we actually have a chance to do that. There are so many good candidates that are grassroots candidates that have their Lord Jesus Christ in their heart, that are Christian folks who are going to do what's right by you. I think this is the year to change it. Like he said, we're out of time. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Devin, for what you're doing and convincing people the truth.
Yeah, God bless.
Yeah, thank you.